Today we're going to talk about the air dry function on your washing machine. We're going to talk about what it is, when you should use it. I'm also going to compare it a little bit to the regular spin dry. That is more of the traditional way of drying up the clothes here. So first of all, let's define what this air dry actually is. It is a function on most modern washing machines. If you have an older one, it's not certain that you have this setting. It can also be on your dryer. What it essentially does is that it opens little vents on your washing machine at the end of the cycle when your washer is in the spin cycle, which is the last stage of the wash where it kind of wrings out all the water from the washer. So the way this air dry works is that it draws in air from the surrounding area here. Now this air is going to be reasonably warm, but the washer itself doesn't wash up the air, so it doesn't really consume any additional resources, which makes this a really cool function to have. So as you can imagine, having the air kind of be drawn into the washer will help significantly reduce drying time compared to just spinning it. It is a pretty long setting, I will say. I think the minimum you can put it on is about 45 minutes for it to be effective at all, but it can go up to all night here. Now it's not a problem because it doesn't really consume much resources at all, and you will find that this setting can actually dry your clothes up to 90% of the way. Now if they're dried 90% of the way, that allows you to take them and just iron them, for example, and they will be completely dry. Alternatively, you can of course pop them into the dryer for the remaining time, or like I would do, just hang dry them, since the thing is, when they are in this cycle, right, it doesn't have that effect that kind of glues the fabrics together. I know, have you tried to like wash a towel and then just hang dry it and the next day find it's like almost crusty? Well, if you use this function, that's not going to happen because there is movement while the air dry function is on there. Now there are a few drawbacks with this setting. The biggest one is that it's not very effective on very wet clothes. Like if they're soaking wet, it's not going to be so effective. So if you're able to pop it into a spin cycle first to kind of get out like half the moisture from the garments, and then you pop it into the air dry function, that is going to probably yield the best results, I would say. If we're going to compare these two cycles, the spin dry and the air dry, I guess we can start with the spin dry. While it is an older function, it is a really good one to have available as well. It is a lot faster than the air dry in that the air dry, it moves a lot slower and it just dries clothes primarily just by pumping air into the tub of the washer. While the spin dry, it spins fast, right? It has that centrifugal the centrifuge effect where it spins around and it wicks all the moisture out of the garments. Now the spin dry can have a lot of little nuances to it as well. If you turn down the speed of the spin dry, it's going to be less effective, take longer time and use more electricity. While the air dry, on the other hand, is pretty stable in that if you turn it on and it's running and you're going to yield the same results whenever you use it. Another disadvantage to the spin dry compared to this air dry is that since it does spin so fast and there is no air to help keep the garments from creasing up, they will turn out a lot more creased than you will find that the air dried clothes will. I will say though that air dry isn't perfect for preventing creases either. If you really want to prevent creases, I think tumble drying them will be the way to go. But if you're going to iron them anyway, or if you have clothes that are not prone to creasing, then air dry is the perfect option for you. Another thing about the air dry is that it doesn't really allow you to put as many clothes as a spin dry would do. If you spin dry the clothes, you will generally find that you can just load it to full capacity. Not a big deal. With the air dry, however, it needs a lot more room, so probably just a couple of kilos is the maximum you will be able to pop in there. So that is a bit of a disadvantage, but I think it is a really good cycle to have available. It's so eco-friendly. As you can imagine, if you're just going to dry the clothes and then spin dry them halfway, they will just be half the way dry, right? You would still have to line dry them, which takes forever, or you would have to throw them into the dryer, which will consume significantly more resources since it uses a lot more electricity to heat up the air, whereas the air dry just uses the regular room temperature air to kind of get in between there. There are a few clothes that you should not use the air dry on. As you can imagine, spin drying, I have made a video on the spin cycle before. If you want to see it, I can link it up here in the corner. But for the air dry, You can dry more clothes in the air dryer. Generally, you will find that you can dry most clothes in there. I would avoid anything with like lace or little embroideries, as it kind of can snag onto the washer's drum. Other than that, I think you should be good pretty much air drying anything. You want to be a little bit careful, as always, with delicate clothes. Besides that, the only caution I would really give you is to remember to take the clothes out of the drum when they're done. I think many people will think that air dry, okay, they're so dry, right? Just leave them for a little bit. But you're still gonna have that problem with mold building up if you leave them in the drum after they're done, especially after a few hours. Also, there is the issue with if you don't take them out in time, they're going to start creasing since they're laying on top of each other and still kind of wet. It kind of squeezes them down together. I hope this video was useful. I made a bunch more in the past. You can check out another one here on Spin Cycle. Also have a video on how you can line dry your clothes, which is the logical next step if you have air dried the clothes. And yeah, hope this video was useful, and I'll see you in the next one.